Hey everybody. I'm sorry I haven't made any more content in a while. A lot of stuff had got in the way, and frankly, there wasn't that much stuff that was entertaining I could say or show you. Until now. While I wanted to show you my work in progress to the short The Nightmare Man. Now, while I can show you some of the footage, I am going to also show you a behind the scenes look at how I got it done. So before I begin with how I made the pilot, let me tell you about The Nightmare Man. It's a superhero story about a tech entrepreneur who has a premonition about the city being destroyed by Dr. Emil Shriek with a doomsday device. The entrepreneur finds the whereabouts and in his costume guise of the Nightmare Man, sets out to stop Shriek and his mechanized henchmen before they destroy the city. Pretty straightforward stuff. What drove me to do this was I had a design for Shriek laid out a year before but with no story attached. I had turnarounds, some poses, and visemes for the mouth shape. During that year, I had no hero to pit him against. Then one day I came up with this idea of the Shadow meets Batman superhero character who visually was like Batman from Batman the Animated Series and Aku from Samurai Jack. It was hard trying to decide on some of the action poses whether to give Nightmare Man feet or not. When it comes to the writing, I had Dr. Shriek give an exposition dump during the entrepreneur's premonition and to the audience as sort of a self-congratulatory scrum with his henchmen. I did this not only as a way to give the information quickly, but also a nod of sorts to all those people on Twitter who act like supervillains giving off self-serving monologues. I'm looking forward to developing more stories for the Nightmare Man because of what drew me in to develop the story was the alter ego of Nightmare Man, Tyler Sweet. What if a tech baron, like Musk, Bezos, or Zuckerberg, became a superhero? How much of their viewpoint of justice is self-serving? With the ability to have premonitions as dreams and preventively stopping threats, how justified are their actions? These are things that I didn't have the scope for to handle myself for a lone short. So if I'm able to assemble a crew together to work on it, I'll put out more episodes. Now, onto behind the scenes work. First of all, my big mistake was I didn't storyboard all the short. Why? It wasn't out of ignorance, it was out of laziness. You must storyboard your work. End of sentence. However, while it wasn't a problem with some of the static shots and it did let me come up with what I think are interesting ideas, it ate up time and I came up with art I ended up not using. However, that said, some of the scenes I hadn't finished are ones that I had storyboarded. Then I recorded the audio. I used gaming headphones due to budgetary and technical constraints. The plus side is that I had volume so clear that I needed to turn down the volume for some of the takes in order to use it. The bad news was that some of the takes had a popping sound because I was too close to the mic and I didn't use a filter to soften out those pops. You can normally use a pop filter to get rid of it. I used Adobe Audition to record the audio. I recorded each take into a WAV file. I use WAV files since they are uncompressed. After cleaning up the take, taking care that none of the audio goes into the red zone, which blows out the audio, and clean up any clicks and pops. After that, I worked on the background. The main background I use, which is Dr. Shriek, the villain of the piece, his hideout. I based it off of a background layout artist Maurice Noble did for a Looney Tunes short. I digitally painted it in Photoshop. I chose the colors for the background from the reference still, which worked well with the characters' color schemes. I originally imported the audio into Adobe Animate, but I wasn't satisfied with the lip sync quality for some of the characters, so I ended up using Adobe Character Animator. This worked with the lip sync and also sped up the work animating the character. I recommend Character Animator even though there are heaps I still don't know and tools I don't know how to use properly. In Character Animator, in the scene, I would click on the audio files and transcribe the audio from the script. This helps you when you eventually sync up the audio with the puppet's visemes or mouth shapes, making a more accurate lip sync. I would line up the different takes and sync up the audio first before animating any gestures for the character to see which take had the best mouth movements and sounded the best. I've also found, when working with the Character Animator puppet, that if you put too much stuff like animations, poses, etc., different things like blinks, which would work before, would suddenly not work. Therefore, I recommend making multiple puppets of a character. When it comes to the action set pieces, I animated them in Adobe Animate. Honestly, if I had more patience, and maybe talent, I would have more frantic action scenes like an anime. Although I do have a few action scenes left to do, so maybe I'll add some fast-paced action. If I'm able to make more episodes, then I will up the ante in that department. When I export my work from Animate to Character Animator, I export them with alpha channels, meaning that they have a transparent background, and composite them into After Effects, where I'd add the background and add any digital effects like Dr. Shriek's illusionary blast. Then I would bring the footage into Premiere, where I would assemble it and cut when needed. When I work in 4K, I'm editing the show in 1080p so that it can be exported into YouTube and other platforms. This would be where I would add sound effects and music to flesh out the short. That is the progress of how I put together the short for The Nightmare Man. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoy the pilot when it comes out. I want to give a timetable of when it will be out, but honestly, I don't want to overpromise on that. I'll let you know more the closer I get to a completed short. Thank you for your time, and stay hustling, my friends.